Okay, today we're going to be making up some XLR cables. All the XLR cables I have are 10 or 20 meters, so I want to make a couple of short ones, about 2 meters long, just to make them a bit more practical when I'm using them in the house for recording and stuff. So I found a scrap one. This one has a 3-pin XLR. And I've already cut that off because it had a 4-pin XLR. Not quite sure what that was actually originally for, but so we'll just have a quick look at this, see if this XLR is suitable instead of putting new ones on. So I'll put that excess over there. Now, this is one of the things that I hated doing as a tech, making up cables. When you were quiet, this is basically what you did. You sat practically for a whole summer during the quiet time and events for audiovisual stuff, making up cables. Now, I can already see that this is kind of wrong, because on that's pin 1, which is supposed to be hot, but the ground's connected to that. That's correct, because that's pin 3, and that's cold, and that is where the red cable's connected to the ground. So this is already completely wrong. So what I'll do, the XLR's quite corroded on that, so what I'll do is just snip this completely off and see if I can clean it up, but I'll do that some other time. I'll take the bit off that and stick it all back together. In fact, I'll just cut all that off. Save me having to. Yeah, it's not even going back in properly. It's just so corroded, but see if I can clean it up eventually. I like to reuse stuff. Oh, if I could get the cap on, that would be great. Okie dokie. Now I need to find, I've got an audio connector box, one of them. Should have some XLR in here. Audio connectors. There's various different connectors in here. I've got some jack, 1/4-inch jack sockets, stereo, 3.5mm, 3.5mm jacks. It's actually got them, it's 4-ring, so it's got the microphone on it. I think that it actually comes with some heat shrink as well, which is quite handy. I've got some sockets for them. That was a project ages ago that I was making up. These are 5-pin, which are DMX. Oh, right, got one. That's female. I do have a bag with other ones in there as well. Oh dear, right. That's a 4-pin. That's a 5-pin. Let me have a look. I should have another one somewhere else. Got one there. Right, let me have a look. Okay, eventually found one. Don't know what I've done with the rest. I bought a whole load of XLRs and I've put them in a really safe place that I can't remember. So I've got a couple here. This is a brand new one. These are the old ones. So I'll put those two to the side, so they'll need cleaned up. And I've got this one here. Let's see what state this is in. Right, it has been used. There's a solder already on it. Pins are not too bad. So I brought this out just in case I needed to clean it up. And it's just like a felt pencil. Do you know, I've actually forgotten what it's called. I will find out. My memory these days is terrible. So I'm just going to try and clean them up. Pins are okay. On these, on the back, I mean, I can barely see it, but on the male end, that's pin 1, that's pin 2. No, I'll try and do that right. That's pin 1, that's pin 2, and that's pin 3. Pin 1 is the ground, pin 2 is hot, and pin 3 is cold. I'm going to strip back this cable and show you. I've lost another thing that I need. Where have I put the Stanley now? There it is. Okay. So I've got, basically we've got to take the black sheath off. So roughly about 2 centimeters in, and just twist the cable. Don't want to go in too heavy, just lightly. When you take that off, and just double check that you've not cut through anything. Normally the actual ground cable will stop you from cutting through the rest. What we want to do is we want to take the ground, twist it till it's nice and straight. I want to take this kind of string or thread through that just for strength. It helps stop the cable getting pulled. Put that in the bin. Let's keep a bin to the side just for all my bits. And as you can see, I've got the red, which is hot, blue, which is cold, and that's the ground. I want to tin these, so I'll bring this over. First of all, we want to strip the red and the blue. Now, trusty wire strippers. And I just twist the ends just to keep all the wires together. Right, so what we want to do is we want to tin these. We're tinning, basically taking some solder and preheat the cable, preheat the wire, and then tin some solder onto that. So we've got a nice clean soldering iron. Now, I was always told to put the soldering iron underneath, put the solder on top because the heat rises. But that just always doesn't really work for me sometimes. I've said before in other videos, I am very, very bad at soldering, even though I've been doing it for pretty much most of my adult life. So yeah, I've got that. Just make sure the end is. I want to do is make sure that that is just the same size as the blue and the red. And twist these round. Try and be quick with these so you don't melt the insulation on the blue and the red wires. But try and be as quick as possible. Not great, but I might get away with it. And we have a red and blue. Everything is done. Right, so we'll keep this in the vise just now. Okay, just like that. And next thing is the actual XLR itself. Now, this is one thing I always forget. First thing you need to put in is the boot, because if you solder it and you've soldered the other end, I have done this a million times, to be honest, a million times, where I've soldered the end and then I realised I forgot to put that on. Alright then, we're back again. Unfortunately my camera crapped out on me. So it's all back up and running again. So where was I? Right, we were putting this right, so we had we'd taken this apart. There was solder already in it. What we just want to top this up. We had tinted the cables at the end, and we've got the main boot on, which is very, very, very important. So what I'm going to do is I'll just connect that to this. Now, to hold an XLR, there's various ways you can do it. You could put it into a female socket and hold that while soldering. The benefit of that is that these, sometimes when you heat the pins up, it melts the plastic and the pins become out of shape. So that obviously keeps them in shape. So if you're not soldering it with another XLR, then there's a number of different things you can do. You can obviously use a little stand like mine with crocodile clips on it. That can be handy. I could turn that around, fix that in there and there, and then solder these on. Another option is either using one of my favourite things on the whole planet, the speed clamps. You could clamp that, hold on, and you could use speed clamps. They're very light, the speed clamps, so ideally I would use another speed clamp to clamp it down here, and that would stop it from moving. Other option, which is my favourite option, is using a pair of pliers. As you notice, there's this little indent in these pliers, which is absolutely perfect. And if I've got an elastic band, let me see, yes I do. Let's just put the elastic band around the ends, not too tight, and you can sit the XLR on there. Now the idea is to heat up each of these pins. Now this is, so that's pin 1, pin 2 and pin 3. I've got to keep reminding myself of this. It's, as I said, I've been doing this for years, but just kind of things that fall out of my head. Another thing is the actual shield and ground. I like putting heat shrink on them. The only issue that you have with putting heat shrink on, if you can see here, and that fits over the heat shrink, because this cable was obviously, there's no insulation on it. I like to put a wee bit just in case that when you screw it in it bends or twists and makes contact with any of the other cables. So forget my snips. Try not to cause an avalanche of things. The only issue with using heat shrink, obviously, is there's a lot of heat. When you melt the solder, there's a lot of heat, and this obviously reduces the heat shrink. So best try to do it as quickly as possible, if you can. So I'll do that first, and you can see me mess it up, which is one of my traits when I'm soldering. Not the best solderer in the world, I will keep admitting that. So I want this to go into pin 1. It's tinted, and to give ourselves a wee bit more on that. The idea here is that when we're holding the cable with the pliers, maybe turn them around the other way, holding the cable with the pliers, heat shrink stays as far away from that as possible, and it will just go in there. That's the plan. Let's give it a try and watch me fail miserably. That's not bad. Even surprised myself there. Right, let's do the red cable. I really need to get, got long nose pliers, but they're in my work toolbox. Yet again, as per usual, I haven't prepared. So let's solder this in. Oh, no. Problem is, sometimes seeing doing. So that's the red cable, which is the hot, or the positive, if you want to call it. And this is the cold cable going into pin 3. Right, and I'll let that go, and that is us. Whoa, nearly ruined it. So that's us. We have soldered that. Not too bad. Now I need to do the heat shrink. Ideally, I want to do the heat shrink over the actual connection, and use a lighter. Get this out the road just now. Use a lighter. Oh no, that was obviously a rubbish solder joint. Back to the drawing board, as my father used to say. He hated that. Just to make up when I was a kid, make projects up, building Lego and things like that. And if it fell apart, my dad always said, back to the drawing board, in a jokey sense. but that used to drive me crazy. And for some weird reason I seem to have adopted the phrase for myself. Right, so this is going to be a bit more complicated now because I've soldered the other ones first. So just, there we go. Make sure, try and not put the heat on for too long. Leave it for a couple of seconds this time. And the heat shrink has survived, so that's good. Ha! And that was me being stupid. I have a tendency to hurt myself, obviously by accident. I'm very accident prone. Unfortunately, anytime that I'm on site, I always take I've got a first aid kit in my toolbox at work, because I'm always needing plasters and things like that. Incredibly accident prone. So I want to switch that round so it lines up. Normally you can tell, yeah. So that, as you can see, I accidentally twisted the cable, and that's what you have to watch out, because when you start twisting the cable, the ground gets twisted round the other cables. So if you just line that up, there's a wee notch there and a notch there. Don't know if you can see that. And we line that up, put this cover on, and we have the first XLR onto this. Now, cable wise, we're going to use, I want to measure this out now. I don't think you can see this, but I have marked my desk with 1 meter and a half meter, so that I can just, I want a 2 meter cable out of this, and right, you might be able to see another camera. So we've got 1 meter there, 2 meter, and then just about 3 centimeters added onto that just for cutting it back. So I'll snip this now, and same again, just round about 2 centimeters in. There'll be some people saying it should be less and whatnot, but I'm sure some of my colleagues would say that. Now I'll just do the same thing we did the last time. Just fanning out all the cables, making sure there's no strands from the ground that have gone astray, because you don't want that getting twisted around the blue or the red wire. Cut thread off. I'm sure there's XLRs that actually have gripping points for this. At the moment it's kind of useless on these type of XLRs, so they're designed to grip onto the actual rubber shield. So yeah, twist that round and round. Another thing, see, the problem is also with twisting it round and round. When it heats up, it can melt the red and blue wire, causing a short. You just got to try and be as quick as possible when you're soldering. As I've said, time and time again. Right, where are my wire strippers? kit again, causing an avalanche of stuff. We will get this and we will tint these cables so we can see. And yet again, make sure the tip of the soldering iron is clean. Yep. And yep, that side. But it's probably not gone through, but I don't want to heat the cable up too much. This solder has flux on it, which makes it a lot easier. Otherwise you can use actual flux, but it's kind of messy. Prefer just using solder with flux in it. I will turn that around and do the other side of that so that to minimise the heat running up the copper. Making sure we've got a good coverage of that. Now that is just slightly longer, so we'll snip the ground back a wee bit just to match the blue and the red. And we do it almost exactly the same, slightly different this one. This is the female end. Got cable grip, got boot. Now, first of all, I have made a bit of a mistake, but because I've tinted the ends, ideally you want to put the boot on first, because it can be a bit fiddly before you strip the end of the wire back. And so that's on. If you do it without tinting the ends, the wires just fold back on themselves and it just becomes a mess. So ideally you want to do that either before you strip that back, or tint the ends before you do it. Now push this section out. Okay, and on this, it's the actual, that is always going to be pin 3. So on this, it's pin 2 is on that side, and pin 1 is on that side. So that's ground, and that's hot. Again, I get the trusty pliers. Move that to the side just now, and what we'll do is we'll fill up little connectors at the back with solder. You just want to fill, I suppose, the bucket full of solder. There we go, 1, 2, and the last one. Yep, that's that done. And again, I'm going to start off with the ground again, hopefully get a better connection than last time. It's quite measurement, just a wee bit shorter. As I said before, if it's too close to the solder, it will melt. And you just got to keep your soldering as quick as possible with this. So this time the ground is on the other side. I take a set of pliers and we'll attempt to solder into this just need to melt the solder already in and melt some of the solder on. That's a cable. Leave it for a second. And there we go, we've got a nice tight connection there. I will okay, that was a fail, if I've ever seen one. Let's stick this in. Another bit of I'm going to fill that up with some solder again. Oh dear, right. It's quite relaxing soldering. If you've got a little project going and you've got a lot of soldering to do, even if it's repetitive, there's something quite calming about it. Oh, I'm really messing this up. I think I've melted. That's solid. It's a wee bit messy. That'll do. And just quickly do the heat shrink. We've got the red cable, which is going into pin 2. The pliers are useless. Oh, yep. They're good pliers for a lot of things. I'm seeing it's starting to melt the actual insulation on this, because I'm messing this up as per usual. And I've totally and utterly messed that up. I don't want to have to go back. Oh man. Yeah. Not too bad. This is pretty awful. Right, what could I do? Actually, I'm not going to get the angle on that. Now, give me a minute. I'm going to go and get my long nose pliers out of my toolbox and try and not destroy the place. Right. Long nose pliers. Here we go. Right, let's see if these help. Probably not. As I've said before, I am rubbish at this. Melt. Wonderful. Right, and again on the ground. Using the side of my hand just to hold pliers in place. I think should have used was the speed clamps, because I can clamp the speed clamp to the bench and then clamp the XLR pins to the other clamp. Right, that is pretty appalling, but we'll see. It's fine. This also doubles as basically the grip, the cable grip. It also insulates that, so that obviously this is metal, so there's no shorting to that, and also it's multifunctional. So let's get this lined up now. Yep. There's 2 notches on that, and yep, there we go. Ah. I wonder if this is a different, no, it can be a different one. Ah. Right, so there's just 1 notch. There's 2 notches on that. So I wonder if I line that up. Yeah, that looks about right. Oh. And yep, that doesn't fit. So let's twist that round without twisting the cable. That fits in. So next, put a Stanley knife away. Hold it with the blade out. Health and safety first. I've got my 2 meter cable now. Just what I want to do is just double check it with a continuity meter, and then I can test it with a microphone. So yeah, just double check that the battery's good. So we've got pin 1 on the female side, and we have pin 1. That's good. Just double check that there's no shorts. There we go. We've got pin 2, no shorts. Brilliant. Pin 3. Oh, no, there we go. And there's nothing connecting with the outside. Well, that's a cable, good to go. I shall wrap it up. Traditionally. And in good old Blue Peter fashion, I've got a second one. So that is actually going to save me a lot of grief when I'm recording stuff in the house, because normally I've got 10 or 20 meters of cable basically sitting on the floor. I'm only having to go about 1 meter in distance between various different desks and things. So that's very good. I've got 2 of them, all checked. Need to double check that. They actually work on the desk. 1 microphone. Don't put your microphone too close to the speaker. Okay, that's 1 checked. One, 1, 2. Excellent. So, job done. Okay, thanks very much for watching. My name's Marty, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much.